So, Reuben, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your time today. I'm so excited to get to learn from you and be inspired by you. And I would love for you to start off by introducing yourself, when you graduated from Trachtenberg, and what you're doing now.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Melissa. My name is Reuben Aniekwu. I graduated from Trachtenberg in 2019 from the MA-ENRP program. And after graduating, I worked in a consultant firm, ICF, mostly coordinating climate research across the federal agencies. Did that for a while until I decided to develop a taste for finance and how to use finance to scale climate solutions. So I went back to school, currently in the MBA program at Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University, and interning at a private equity firm right now. I'm focused on renewable energy.
Wonderful. We have lots of students who say, "Can I do anything in the private sector?" So the answer is yes, you can. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump in with my questions and start off with what's the best networking advice you've received?
The best networking advice I've received, I would think, is to plan, do some pre-planning. And basically what that means is do some research about the people that you want to network with, you want to meet, and the questions to ask them. I know that many people, including I, when I first started at George Washington University, were really shy and found networking and happy hours really awkward. But it's less awkward if you know exactly what you want to ask and the specific people you want to talk to. And so I think it makes it easier and it makes it a bit much more of a valuable conversation. And so doing some research about the people you want to meet and the questions you want to ask them is the best advice I've gotten so far.
That's great advice, and there's lots of easy ways to research people now. LinkedIn is a
Absolutely.
great way to research people. Excellent. Okay. What specific action did you take that significantly impacted any of your job searches or your decision to kind of follow a little bit of a different path and go back to school again? What have you done to sort of guide you?
Fair question. I did a ton of networking, talking with people both within my company, and DC is an amazing place to work too because you have free events like at the Brookings Institution. There are many organizations that have very free open access town halls or conferences, not conferences, but seminar series, if you will. You can just walk there, and they pull in a ton of really interesting people, really interesting backgrounds. And I read a lot too. I was subscribed to The Economist, Financial Times, E&E News. Is an environmental policy publication, and I started to follow market trends. And the more I did that, the more I spoke with people within my company and outside. It whetted my curiosity, and that's helped me and guided me to where I am now and helped me navigate my career trajectory. And I think that I'll keep on doing that. I've always been interested in interdisciplinary things. How do I combine sustainability or climate science with finance, with geopolitics even? I think that makes for a very interesting career path, and that's what I plan to do going forward.
That is excellent. I mean, the more you feel part of the community, you know about what they care about, and you know people who you can go to with questions, and really just the more people that you talk to and the more you know, the better. It's hard to balance your time. How do you find time to do that and school and an internship?
Again, a very interesting question because that's the reality. It can get really overwhelming. And I used to be I'm better, much better now at managing my time, just because of practice. Um, but when I was working, that was the only thing, at least, well, I found it really important because at the same time, I was studying for certification exams in the evenings. So work full time. Some days attend some of these, networking events, networking people, have meetings, and then in the evening study for my certification exam. But if I felt that these things were really important, it also helped because At the time, say 2019, 2020, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do long term,
Mm.
but I knew that I had something. There was this itch that was like, there could be more that I could be doing because this climate space is really broad. And I was exploring all kinds of ways for long-term planning. And so I thought it was important. And I just had to, and it wasn't every single day. So I was strategic with how I spread myself so that I don't overwhelm myself because there's a thing called burnout and you don't want to do that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. What have you found most helpful when you've prepared for an interview? Or I don't know if you've interviewed people. What would you recommend that they do?
It's both ways.
Yeah.
Um, for me personally, what I think, and in business school culture, it's very, very advisable to practice mock interviews with friends, um, because especially those who recruit for consulting roles, there's something called casing. And I think not just consulting firms now, a lot of firms across industry tend to use cases. For example, they put you in a situational thing where, they describe a problem and ask you to figure it out. And the more you practice, knowing how to deploy certain frameworks and, just getting better at communicating your ideas efficiently with colleagues or friends or peers, that has tended to help me very well. Um, Before I used to underestimate, how to do well in interviews. But it's quite important to do some practice. So practicing with people helps get the job done. And what I've seen as an interviewer, interviewing people, I think through practice, you get better at communication. You don't want to overtalk and you don't want to undertalk. Right? You want to get to the point with lots of anecdotes too, as well.
Yeah, you can absolutely make the experience a lot easier on yourself if you've practiced because you're trying to juggle a lot of things, right? You're trying to maintain eye contact, you're trying to look energetic, you're trying to answer questions. So if you have some of it from kind of like muscle memory,
Absolutely.
that frees up a little bit of time to focus on some of the other things, like having some kind of a not a relationship because it's too quick, but some kind of a you know, communication with somebody that's got a warm feeling to it instead
Oh
of
yeah.
totally nervous one. Yeah, that's terrific advice. Mock interviews with career services works too.
Fair. That's true.
Uh,
That's
and
true.
also for people who are currently students, we have an interview prep tool in Handshake where they can everybody's least favorite thing to do, watch videos of themselves in prep interviews. Great advice. Thinking back a few years now to your capstone, how did you showcase that? How did you promote that or use that in your career goals?
Oh, I loved my capstone. I loved using my capstone as because again, the capstone, for a bit of context, was really relevant in 2018. It was looking at emissions, carbon emissions across the liquefied natural gas value chain, and it was at a time where the US was really gung ho about liquefied natural gas, and so it was a very timely topic, and we did really good work in my team of like three. Um, I presented it to my employer as one of those informal lunch and learn events. And they really liked it because it was unrelated to what we did in the consulting firm, but it was a timely topic. And the content of the capstone, I think it led to them retaining me full time because I was an intern at that point in DC. And then, I put it in my resume, that when under additional information that I did this thing and it was presented at the World Gas Conference in 2018. And I put it on LinkedIn as well. And I talked about it often. And I made references to it when I attended events in the DC area around this relevant topic, natural gas. So these were, I didn't want to be a braggart about it, but it was very strategic mentioning of like the capstone, which I enjoyed. And as one thing that I encourage people to, it's an opportunity to do like a free internship for about 3-4 months. So pick the right company, pick the right topic, pick the right team.
That's terrific. Um, we talk to people about sometimes even putting their capstone in their experience section on their resume, as long as they say that it was, pro bono in a capstone project, you're working for a
Yeah,
client. So especially for folks who don't have a lot of experience in the field, that can be helpful there too. Wonderful.
absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, last question. What do you think you've done? And you may have answered this already, maybe elaborate a little bit, but on your general career advancement or career path, and you've done some interesting things, um, what do you think you've done that's had the most impact on that? Has it been the talking to people or combination of things?
It's definitely a combination of things, Marissa. And I will say that I consider myself very fortunate. The way I landed my initial internship while I was a student at GW, the internship ended up being a year and a half long.
That's a lot.
So while it's not that common, the internship typically lasts for 3, 4 months or a bit longer. Mine lasted a while, and that gave me really ample experience. But it's a bit of fortune, and then being very deliberate with how I was crafting my career trajectory, and it involved doing some work around reading on my own, doing some research, subscribing to publications. So again, keeping it, updated on market trends, relevant market trends. Another thing was the kind of courses I took. I I had I, I had a predilection for very technical courses because I was coming with a background that was theoretical. I did a lot of theory as a geologist, but not a lot of like practical skills I could deploy in the US market because I was coming from Nigeria as well. I remember I didn't know how to use Excel. I didn't know very much how to use databases like SQL or scripting tools like SQL. And so I decided to take classes around that. And then more tailored classes like the greenhouse gas management certification, classes under that certificate, and talking to people too, networking. So it was a combination of these things that helped me get my foot in the door of industry, basically. And that kind of has continued. I never really stopped networking, reading, so applying oneself and taking relevant classes, getting the skills, certification exams. It, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of stress sometimes, I wouldn't lie. But the way I see it is, one can tolerate this level of stress so you can set yourself up for success. And it was not going to last too long. I wanted to really apply myself, develop the skills so that I could set myself up for long-term success. And I've never really rested on my laurels that much. Um, but so I'd say that these things are relevant. A bit of fortune, do your parts, and then talk to people because that personal touch actually is really important. It helps you facilitate your entry into different doors.
Wonderful. Those are my questions. Thank you so much, Reuben, for sharing your inspiration and some really good practical tips as well for people and letting people know that it's okay to be shy at first
Oh yeah.
and and take a little bit of time to get used to networking because it isn't the easiest thing for people to jump in and
No,
do. So
no, it's not.
thanks again.
Thank you, Melissa.